episode is rated M for mature audiences. The views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of the PFC Entertainment Network or any of the affiliates that make this show possible.
This is the Pure Fury Creations Entertainment Network.
On tonight's show, the Tigers are at the crossroads. What do we expect of this team in the second half of the season? Plus, with Spain winning the World Cup, how long will soccer be popular here in America? And then the boys from Don't Know Grit joins the show to break down the Lions and all things NFL as a Sports Reel podcast begins right now.
If it's in the headlines, on the first page or the last, it's fair game here on the Sports Reel podcast.
And we welcome you to the real reason why Tuesdays were invented. This is the Sports Reel podcast live on the PFC Entertainment Network along with Tim Sheridan and Eric Mendal. I am Jason Clouse. We certainly appreciate you tuning in here this week. We have Matt, who is going to be joining us from Don't Know Grit. We're going to be breaking down all things NFL, specifically with the Detroit Lions later on in the program. We're going to be looking at the end of the World Cup. New champions crowned in the form of Spain. We're going to be talking about that. A look at what's happening in this fine place that we know as Hockey Town, the Detroit Tigers, all that and more. But gentlemen, good to see you. Tim, how's things in your neck of the woods?
You know, I am pretty fucking fabulous, Jason. It's been a great day. It was a pretty relaxing day for the first half of the day, and then we had to go to swing lessons for Chase, and I got a chance to go out there and hit a bucket of balls too because I need to get ready for Thursday because I need to play strong on Thursday. Other than that, you know, pretty solid. Other than I just found out that apparently Hector went into Harry's and bought three T66 turbos, you know, NOS and a Motec system exhaust. So I'm a little bit upset with that. You know, he's also running 3 spoon engines. I don't know if I can keep up with that. Other than that, you know, I'm going to stay positive and hopefully I can get some shit done. You know, I'm going to beat Hector this year. This is about race wars, Jason. This is about race wars.
That's great. Eric, good to see you, man. How's things going with you?
I was good until he started talking all this bullshit. It's another, you know, Tuesday. Work was dragging today, but happy to be here. And now I just got to deal with. I don't even know what I'm to expect today.
Listen,
so we're just gonna roll with it.
For those who are out of the loop, no, Tim is not stroking out. He last night he and I were guests on catching up with Cody, and apparently there was some sort of a challenge issue to Tim that he could rattle off 6 or 7 catchphrases or lines from the Fast and the Furious movies. I had no idea what he was doing. I thought he was trying to be motivational or something, because if I can be honest with you, Tim, I have not seen one of those movies. Of all the 37 installments that they've made of this bullshit, I have never seen one of them.
Well, you're missing out for one.
No,
and
by
the quotes, you can tell it's a very motivational movie because you thought I was being motivational. In fact, I think the only person who even caught on to what the hell I was doing was Matt, because Matt at some point came out and said, I don't have a podcast. I have family in the chat. Yeah. So he knew exactly what the hell I was doing, and I dug that. Speaking of Matt, brother, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm talking with you three, so can't get a whole lot better. And I just checked with my sources, and they actually confirmed that all that info on Hector is correct. So,
Oh my god.
I got to watch my back. Hector's making moves, man. He's making moves.
We need more beer.
Matt, it's great to have you on here this week on the program. We have a lot to talk about here. Before we get into the world of sports, does anybody else have anything that they want to bring to the proverbial table? Because I'll say this: I had something I was going to call Tim out on, and I was going to have a piece of footage from last night's episode of Cody's show where Tim made the comment that soccer was not a real sport and that it was really boring. I was going to try to play that clip on the show this week. Riverside threw a flag on me and will not upload that file, so it really pissed me off.
Oh, you should have told me. I would have got it for you.
I contacted Cody last night. I'm like, hey, at the 13-minute mark, can you? Because I made a note of it last night.
He posted it online today, so it's out there in the verse, in the universe now. So I'm just waiting for all the heat. But you know what? I said this last night on the show. I can say that shit, and people will agree with me 100%. Jason, you say that, they're gonna hate on you, like 100%. In fact, if you want to bring something up real quick, let's talk about your. I'm gonna go to TikTok real quick.
Oh god.
Because for some reason, this fucking dude on TikTok decides that he hates Jason. So Jason and Vinny on Ball Game did a whole thing where Jason was kind of saying he's sick of hearing about the Scooble shit, and it's just like, trade this guy already. He's robotic, you know what I mean? He goes and does this stuff, but he's like, he acts like he's forced to do it. Like he doesn't have any. You don't get the feel from Scooble that
there's no emotion behind it.
Yeah. So I mean, Noodle McVeigh said this guy obviously does not follow the Tigers. He's just making shit up. So we learned from Noodle McVeigh that Jason does not watch any or follow any Detroit Tigers games. I stuck up for you there, by the way, Jason. If you can go read those comments. And then it goes on from there.
Were relevant to me, I would take the time to read them.
Hold on. I want to tell you what Jimbo Slice thinks of you. He says it's a horrible take, and his analytical reasoning for having it is mental gymnastics. Just because he watches every game doesn't give him his opinion merit. You're trying to get views in a tough space, and this ain't it. Maybe if he didn't shit all over himself trying to spit it out, and Buddy shaking his head in agreement like, bro, where are you going with this? The robotic autopilot pitching method earned him 2 consecutive Cy Youngs. I don't know where he wants to put Scooble's mouth, but I'd rather not even know. And then he said, there is still time to take this one down, which I just, very nicely commented back. I was like, why would I take it down? Because you don't like his opinion? Everyone's entitled to their own takes on things. You don't have to agree with it. Sorry, Jimbo Slice, that you do not like Jason's opinion, but it is a very valid opinion, which, to be honest with you, Mr. Slice, I have made the same opinion on multiple videos throughout TikTok, Facebook, everything else. And all of my stuff gets praises and people agree with me. So I don't know where the hell you're coming from, but Jason does a fine job. And yes, he does watch all these games. And yes, everybody is just sick of hearing about the Scooble fucking drama. It's either trade them or keep them. We don't care anymore. I'm over it myself personally. So Mr. Slice, if you don't like Jason's opinion, kindly fuck off.
You know what I find?
I'll post that online. See what Jimbo Slice says.
You know what I find the most humorous about this? Out of the 3 of us,
yes.
And let me narrow it down between Eric and I'm the heel.
Apparently, I say the most random fucked up shit, and everybody agrees with it.
Eric says some of the goddamnedest things I've ever heard, and nobody bats an eye at it. I put an opinion out there that puts our superstar on blast, and I'm the one that gets, whatever. Thanks for watching what we're doing. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. And if you're watching because I piss you off, then I will gladly play the role of heel. I will launch a whole merchandise line off that shit and make money off of it. So thank you very much, Jimbo.
Oh, it's Mr. Slice to you, sir. Put some respect on his name. Put some respect on his name.
This, pal. I mean,
Whoa.
Is that where you want Scooble's mouth to go?
Okay. I was gonna ask you if you knew the difference between jelly and jam, but I already asked you that before.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. But be that as it may.
Because I taught you what it meant.
All right, let's get on to more important things like appeasing our fan base contingent in the fine town of Sacramento, California, too. Shout out to the folks in Sacramento.
They hate you too. They hate you too.
Listen, I said it last night. I cannot wait to go on tour and make my way to Sacramento. I'm going to be real popular there.
You might not even make it out of Sacramento, Jason.
It'll be okay. Let's look at what the Detroit Tigers did last week after the All-Star break. Of course, the All-Star game was played last Tuesday night. The American League winning 4-0. Not the best showing for the Detroit Tiger representatives. Not a hit to be found in their outings. But when they did return to action, they did win a series over the Los Angeles Angels, which we anticipated, although I kind of expected it to be a sweep. Last night, they kicked off a 3-game set with the Cubs in Chicago, winning this one very late in the game, 8-6. They are continuing that series here tonight. It wraps up on Wednesday. And then the Kansas City Royals are coming to town for a 4-game set. The Baltimore Orioles are on their heels. And then after that, the Tigers are going to Sacramento to play.
Let's fucking go.
So that's how it shapes up this week. But now comes the question, gentlemen. This is the point in the MLB season that this time last year, we had all this hope, all this anticipation that the Tigers were going to be among the front runners in the American League. That obviously did not pan out the way that we thought it would. So now with this, with everything that the Tigers have done at this point, there's a lot of talk that the American League is still wide open. It is not a strong league by any stretch of the imagination. The way the standings are right now, the Tigers are within striking distance of landing a wild card spot, if not making a legitimate run for the AL Central title. Eric, have you been paying attention to the last game or the chatter as we're looking at what the Tigers are going to do here? Because in my view, my friend, we're at a crossroads, and it starts right now.
Yeah, school ain't going anywhere. It's so that's people got to stop worrying about that. But you got to treat every game like it's Game 7 in the World Series right now. You need to win. Period. You guys have been playing very good baseball, and you guys need to keep it going. You're getting some players back that have been injured, but Kerry Carpenter's got to figure out what's going on with him because he has not had a hit since July 5th. So that's not good, and he's usually one of our better hitters. But if we can get him going and get some of our players back off of injury and they can come in and then contribute, I don't see why they don't have a real shot on making it really for a real push, because they're turning it around towards the end of the season, which I was hoping they were going to do this year. And if they can keep this momentum going, at least win 2 out of the 3 games in every series, they'll be fine.
Yeah, and they're going to at least have to split this upcoming series that they caught on the horizon this weekend with the Royals, with it being, a divisional rival here. Because, Kansas City would like nothing more than to play the role of spoiler at this point, because I don't know if the Royals have a whole hell of a lot to hang their hat on right now or to build off of at this stretch. Not to say that they're not dangerous, because any team can be dangerous if they capture that lightning in a bottle. Matt, we saw the return of Gleyber Torres last night to the lineup, where we saw Spencer Torkelson get a hit for the first time in seemingly forever. Getting Kerry Carpenter back into something of Carpenter form is going to be crucial here. But what else has to happen before the Detroit Tigers can be taken seriously as a legitimate contender to the AL Central?
Well, I think the most important thing will be Scooble's emotion-filled, not robotic at all performances out on the mound. No, I think that we all agree that, like, watching that game last night, right? You get into the bullpen, you get into late innings, and you can hear the saxophones, right? Something's going to go wrong. It's all going to go south. And I think that's the biggest thing is this bullpen. I mean, there's been plenty of times where it felt like the Tigers were in the driver's seat through the 6th inning, and then all of a sudden it falls apart. And I can't say for sure if it's, a rotation change that needs to happen with that lineup, if they've got to make a call on how many days rest people are getting, but that bullpen scares me. Every single game, I'm worried that we're going to have a 2-run lead in the 6th and lose by 3.
I totally agree with you. And what's alarming to me is Kenley Jansen. I was really excited when Detroit signed this guy, and because I remember watching him with the Dodgers, and it wasn't all that long ago. Like, that dude was lights out. Like, it was just almost as guaranteed of a save as when Mariano went out for the Yankees. Like, it was a done deal. We're getting Jansen now at this stage in his career, and he still has a lot of stuff, but it's not that consistency that he once was. And you're absolutely right. The bullpen, for me, like that, it does create some panic, because it's just like, okay, this is going to go really good or really bad, like right now. And you could have the best start in the world, but if you don't have backup, because we're no longer in an era where we're starting to see these starting pitchers go beyond 6 innings. I can remember, and I'm sure all of us can, who watched baseball for any length of time, a starter's average length of a game went into the 7th inning, unless it was an abomination of an outing. We are not really seeing that now these days. And, if we're going to rely that heavily on the bullpen, then damn, man, we got to get something in here that's going to be helping us win and at least make us feel good, like we still have a chance to stay in the game. Tim, what's your opinion on this as we come up to this part? We're starting the second half of the season. They showed some grit, as it were, last night with the late innings to beat the Chicago Cubs. But as we are at this fork in the road, what is your biggest concern?
Well, right now I think they've been playing very exciting baseball. Like they're starting to turn it on at the right time, and I've always been that guy who has always said you got to get hot at the right time, and those are the teams that can make runs. And they're doing that. You know what I mean? They're finding ways to win, and that's what the Tigers have been for the last few seasons. They've been that team who were a little gritty, that were always able to find a way to win. And if they're going to do it this year, I'm kind of excited that they could do it, towards the end of the season compared to what they did last season, where, they were the best team of baseball up until the All-Star break, and then they shit the bed. Had won enough before the All-Star break to actually make their way into the postseason, and they had a pretty decent run last year. So right now, seeing them getting hot is exciting, and they really do, because the AL is so weak, have a chance that they could actually still even win the AL. There's a lot of baseball left to be played. Now, I think these next 8 games are going to be very important for the direction of this team. You know what I mean? If they can find a way to go 6-8, 5-8 over these next 8 games, they will probably end up, definitely being buyers. Scooble's going to stay. And we're going to probably treat him as a rental player, because you're not going to probably re-sign him next year unless there's a lockout and things change and he becomes more affordable, because that's the only way that I see that happening, because I don't see the long-term deal that he wants. And just as an idea, Scooble, who, I mean, his value is pretty high right now, for somebody who's going to be a buyer. But at the same time, his record this year is not that great. He's tied 54th. He's 6-5. He's got a 2.83 ERA, and he's tied 45th in strikeouts at 98 strikeouts. So he's not currently the best pitcher in baseball. He's not even close to being the best pitcher in baseball. He's actually kind of fallen off a cliff this year compared to where he was the last 2 seasons when he won back-to-back Cy Youngs. So he needs to lower his price if he really does want to stay. And I think the Tigers could sign him. And I would be okay with that, but he needs to start acting like he wants to be here. And we don't see that. Jason brought up a good point. You don't see many starting pitchers go past 6 innings. Shit, we're lucky if Scooble goes past 5 before he ends up just saying, I'm done. You know what I mean? We've seen him do that last year in the playoffs. But that seems to be the direction that most starting pitchers are going. But back to the Tigers and the way that they're sitting. I'm excited for this team right now, even if they trade Scooble. I heard Casey Mize might be on the trade block too if they don't win these next 6 to 8 games. So that would be a little bit of a loss because I really do like Casey Mize. And I think overall, he's probably been a little bit better than Scooble has been this year. So he would be the harder piece to lose, in my opinion, as a fan of the Tigers. But I think the sky's the road. Scott brought up, he said the only baseball team that deserves love right now is the Red Sox. Scott, because you don't know sports, bro. I mean, you shit on Kansas City all the time. No, I'm just joking, Scott. You know your shit. I usually look to you to answer all these questions. But yeah, Red Sox has been getting hot right now too. So they're a team to worry about in the AL. And
especially if you're the New York Yankees.
Yes, 100%. So, which I've been loving all the heat Vinny's been getting online too, with all his Yankee hate. And it's fun. He owns up to it. He's loving every minute of it.
He does too. He is leaning right into that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm excited for the direction of the Tigers. I really do think they can make a run. And whether Scooble's here or not, like I said, I'm over here. But I was actually listening to 97 Won the Ticket on the way home of bringing Chase back from swing lessons. And they were just talking about it too. They're like, we're fucking done with talking about Scooble. Either you're going to be here or you're not. We're over it.
I mean, that's it.
Yeah, it's that's the ongoing drama right now. And in the middle of that, even though he's not playing the best baseball, the rest of the team's been stepping up and they've been playing pretty good baseball. So we got something to be excited for, and this team can make a run. They're going to go to the postseason this year. I'm calling it now. Now, whether they make it as a wild card or they win the Central, who the hell knows? You know what I mean? It's only a matter of time before we find that out. But I think they're getting hot at the right time, and I think they can carry this thing through.
Yeah, there's still a lot of baseball left to play, but at the same time, it's going to go by real quick, so it's going to be one of those things where there is that window of wiggle room is rapidly closing. You don't want to get yourself to a point to where your backs are totally up against the wall and you are you cannot afford to lose anything. That's not going to be sustainable. So hopefully they're, from the front office, they're making plans. They have some sort of game plan in play to actually make a legitimate run at this, because I feel like with the team that we have here, if we can get the key pieces back in the lineup, back healthy, they should be considered a viable threat for not just the Central, but the entire American League. It is not out of the question. So we're going to be talking more about that next week on Ball Game, assuming we still have fans that want to listen to Vinny and I, but be that as it may. Let's go ahead and switch gears. Another big event that took place this past weekend was the finals of the FIFA World Cup. 104 matches overall that leads us to Spain winning the World Cup over Argentina. This, we talked a little bit last night with Cody about this. I am not necessarily a huge soccer fan. My knowledge and anything that I know about it has come through TikTok videos and shorts and things of this nature. But I also understand and I can appreciate the fanfare around soccer. My question is, and I posed this last night, Eric, let me start with you. right now soccer is popular, and I feel like it is because primarily of the hype, the mania around the World Cup. But now that that's done, and we're not going to see this thing again for another 4 years, can soccer maintain the level of popularity that it's seeing right now a year from now?
I have no idea. I didn't watch a single game, nor did I really care to watch a game at all. It's don't get me wrong. It's a sport. It's very athletic. It's a lot on your body sport, and hats off to those guys. But it's just not my cup of tea. If you like it, great. If you want to watch it, awesome. I had guys at work watching it. I'm just like, yeah, I could care less. Honestly, I'd rather watch hockey or football or anything like that. But if it gets popular and it keeps coming up, and America can make a run like people thought they were going to this year and all that, great. But to me, I'm just not going to pay attention. I'll only pay attention to the sport if my daughter gets into high school and wants to play it.
That is kind of what led me into the conversation, because it is a popular sport to play, especially when you're a kid.
Yep.
And if you're really good, you can land yourself a scholarship to go to college to play soccer for your respective university. But what happens, I mean, aside from qualifying for the Olympics or being a part of the All-American team that represents the country in the World Cup, once you get out of college, if you are really good and you have all this talent and all this passion for the game of soccer, where do you go to make a living at it that doesn't require you to move across the world to Europe, where it is huge over there? Matt, I said last night, and it was weird because you walked into a store all this time and not one thing was branded towards soccer or the American soccer team going into the World Cup. And then once the tournament started, every conceivable thing that logo could be printed on, whether it be apparel or food packaging or whatever the case may be, had that logo on it. Now, I realize it is because of the World Cup and we get all excited about it, but can Americans, or can the sport survive as a viable, profitable entity has with the NFL or basketball has with the NBA? Can we see something like that? I mean, I know we got Major League Soccer here, but people forget about it because it just isn't branded or promoted in a way like we're seeing the other big four sports. Can soccer become that here in America?
Can it? Maybe. Do I see it happening? No. And you kind of touched on it. I think that one of the biggest hurdles that soccer has to overcome is that the stoppages in play aren't predictable, right? So it makes it very hard to sell things like advertising space.
That's
Networks
fair.
aren't going to want to invest. If you don't get investments from networks, you're not going to put a bunch of advertising out there. And like you said, people forget about it. You've got some like, Seattle and places like that, Miami, where it's big in the local community. But I think that by and large, most people have a very similar mindset to Eric, where they're just like, yes, soccer is a sport. And like you were saying, the people who are best at it, even here, go overseas to play. I mean, Tim Howard was phenomenal. He played in Tottenham. He was, over in Europe. And that's where you go if you actually want to make, a really good living in soccer. You don't aspire to one day play in the MLS. You aspire to go overseas and be in the
Right.
Premier League. And so I think that there are a lot of hurdles that soccer would have to overcome to really get a foothold, because that's what it is. Soccer doesn't even have a foothold here in the US right now. It's just got little grassroots spots where a collection of people are passionate about it, but nothing that could push it into the stratosphere of even hockey at this point for viewership, in my opinion.
You brought up a great point about the advertising, because right now, especially if if an American soccer league was to expand and really make a run at this, streaming is going to probably be their primary source of exposure, and it would be very difficult to sell advertising for that. So that's actually something I didn't really put a whole lot of consideration into from that aspect. I was just looking at it from, it's popular now and people are talking about it now, but a week from now, are we going to be recounting what happened with the last match that the United States played in? Probably not. Whereas you're still recalling shit from the Super Bowl that happened in February. You know what I mean? So I know we're comparing apples to oranges here, but at the same time, it's like that's the depths of fandom that makes any sort of sport viable and popular here in America, But we did want to make mention that Spain did win the FIFA World Cup for 2026, and congratulations to them. I know Tim's a big fan. You're going to be ordering a jersey, aren't you?
I am 100%. I just haven't figured out what team I'm going to attach my fandom to yet. No, actually, I tried to watch soccer, and I said this on Cody's show last night, and I'm not going to say that it's not a real sport, because it's 100% a real sport. I was, in the shit talking mood last night. But it's just, I don't think it has that excitement level for America, to be honest. Like, I literally tried to watch. When you watch clips of the sport, it looks exciting for the most part because there aren't really breaks, to be honest. Matt brought that up, you know what I mean? So you don't have that downtime. There's a lot of fucking walking around. Like they do a lot of walking. You're walking and kicking the ball about 3/4 of the way down the field, and then the action picks up. And then it always gets blocked. They're low scoring. There's a lot of walking around. It's very slow paced, except for, like little bits where they actually pick up the speed. Overall, I just don't think it has the excitement to grasp the attention of the average American viewer. I think they would need to. I mean, you want to talk a sport that's not really big here that I think would take off a lot faster would probably be rugby. Like, to be honest, because it's pretty intense, and that's a sport that could probably do it, because you need to have a little bit of action, a little bit of excitement to grasp, the average American viewer's attention. I just don't think soccer is it, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, you're not going to get the money, because Matt brought it up. There's really not that many breaks in the game, and there's not enough room for, advertisement. And that's what it's all about. And if you're not getting the money backing it, it's not going to grow. Other than that, the only other thing I have to say about soccer is, yeah, that's all I got to say. But congratulations to Spain. Sorry about Mr. Messy Bedroom.
Nicholas has got a good point.
Biggest hurdle for soccer in the U.S. is scheduling. U.S. has more sport options than any other country. Who's going to watch it over any other sport? I mean, that's a good point, too, especially in established sports that we already have here. But other than that, like, I don't think the excitement's there, Nick. Like, to be honest, like, it doesn't get me excited. And I tried to watch it. I gave it my best effort. I get more excited over curling, to be honest.
Ooh,
I knew
curling gets intense.
It does. When they're screaming, like, we go over that, they're fucking sweeping,
The double touch,
screaming. Like, yeah, it's curling is where it's at. That's one of my favorite sports.
All right, let's talk about another pretty big headline that happened here locally in the Detroit area in the time since our last episode last Tuesday night, and that was the announcement. Eric, we're going to turn this over to you, and Matt, I want your 2 cents on this as well. Steve Yzerman stepping down as general manager of the Detroit Red Wings, and but at the same time maintaining a position as senior advisor to the team. Eric, was this done because the blame has been put, in terms of management's eyes, solely on Steve Yzerman and his apparent inability to put a team together to make the playoffs? Or was this done as a publicity stunt from the front office to try to calm the waters and to disperse some of the heat? Because Red Wings fans are getting increasingly heated over the fact that this team has not made the playoffs in quite a stretch. But Yzerman is the one who takes a fall, not the fall. Was this the right call? Do you think it was him actually stepping down, or was this a front office decision just packaged all pretty?
I think Illich and Eisman had a conversation, and I think that, because Eisman tried to get a player from different teams for Larkin, and no one wanted to give up a player that could just step right in and play on the Red Wings. And he doesn't want to get prospects. He was trying to get something worth for Dylan Larkin. I think Illich is like, okay, well, if we're not where we want to be, we got to make a decision, and you can't get us there, so it's time to make a change. Unfortunately, I don't want to see Steve Yzerman as anything else as the guy that brought Stanley Cups here in the early 2000s and 90s or late 90s and all that. But he's out, and he's going to be right under Chris Illich, and hopefully he still has a big role in what's going on because he is a smart man. It's just I don't think he was ready for that GM spot here. He flourished in Florida in the Tampa Bay and all that, and that was great for him. But I think it was just a better move and all that because he's been struggling since he's been here. It's been 7 years and all that. So I think it was time to move on and get someone that knows what they're doing, and hopefully they don't keep it in house. Hopefully it's not Darren McCart or any of the other players that are in the organization that are going to be GM next. You need someone that knows how to run a team.
Matt, do you agree with that take, or are you looking at this through a different set of eyes?
I mean, could we take a second and just recognize how much fun it would be if McCarty was the GM of the Red Wings? I might switch over to a Red Wings kind of podcast after that. I mean,
he gave you enough to talk about, though. That's
oh yeah.
Sure.
I think that the only question that got answered is this, in fact, was not still part of the Yzer plan. We now know for sure that we weren't still on track. And I think to some extent, you're both right. I don't think that Yzerman was, like, man, I want to step down. I want to take this new role, because generally when you transition to a new role, it's to soften the landing. It's to soften the fallout. But Yzerman did have players on this roster that should have been capable of more than they accomplished. Yzerman was not responsible for that. So he is a fall guy. But at the end of it, you still got to look at the product that's on the ice. Yzerman can get the groceries, but he wasn't doing the cooking. And at some point, you're going to have to change that part of it.
Could not agree more. And Eric and I talked halfway through the NHL season, earlier this year, coming into the new year, where, at some point the players on the ice are going to have to take some accountability. The coaching staff is going to have to take some accountability, because, and you said it perfectly, Yzerman can buy the groceries, but he ain't cooking. So the ones that are putting the slop out there, like there needs to be some accountability. That was my point in all of this. And you're absolutely right. So, at this point, you fixed maybe part of the problem, but there's still other things going on that is poisoning the salad. And we're not just talking about the shit that they serve at the Taco Bell. Like there's got to be something else. There's got to be a shakeup here that lets the entire team, the city, the fan base, and the entire NHL put everybody on notice. Like we're done messing around. Now is the time. Mm-hmm. And it sucks because we as fans, longtime fans, at least for me, like I'm very protective of Steve Yzerman's legacy with the Detroit Red Wings. Like the dude is an icon. The dude was the Detroit Red Wings for a long time. Like he was the heart and soul, man. And I wanted nothing more than for him to have the kind of success here that he saw in Tampa Bay. and that's just not going to happen, I guess. But we did want to make mention of this. Eric, you said you hope it's not in house.
No, like not McCarty. I meant like I can't Draper. Like I don't want Draper. I don't want any.
Shanahan.
Yeah, I don't want anyone that's in the organization that's old players and all that, man. Like, yeah, do they want that role? I don't know, but I don't. You need to get someone that knows what they're doing, that wants to step up to a different role and a different team and all that. And maybe there's got to be someone out there that wants to come to, one of the most known hockey franchises in the NHL. If I was in that position and that spot opened and seen the talent they have, because we do have pretty good talent, why not try to turn it around? We need to find scouts that can find us more Pavel Datsyuks, more Hendrik Zetterbergs. Like those guys were in the 6th round. And I still hear about how good Datsyuk was, and it blows my mind still. Like we got him in the 6th round, and so many teams overpassed him, and he became one of the best players in the NHL. Won 2 Stanley Cups with us. He learned under such great players when he was here. Brett Hall, one of the best, took him under his wing when he first got here. It just shows what our team was back then.
I agree, my friend, and I think bringing somebody else in that has not been associated or affiliated with the Red Wings organization would be that kind of shakeup. But let me ask you this: now, when you talk about the Red Wings organization, do you mean on the NHL level, or would you think that they would consider promoting somebody from Grand Rapids or one of the lower tier hockey leagues that are serving as kind of a farm system for the Red Wings?
You need someone that's in the NHL. You need someone that's ready to go, knows what they're doing, that's already been through that development and has developed and can scout players, can draft players, can make trades, can make moves. Don't get me wrong. If we got that talent down in Grand Rapids, great. But we need someone now to start. I don't want to say it's a rebuild, but you need to start putting more pieces to the puzzle to get us back into the playoffs.
Anything you'd like to add in on that, Matt?
No, I completely agree. And I think that, Yzerman might be a cautionary tale for that. I mean, it wasn't like this was his first GM role, but
no,
you saw what it's like to step into a place that calls itself Hockey Town, right? There's a whole different pressure here. And that may be part of the problem that old players have, is that they were a part of that. And they're trying to live up to something that isn't there anymore, even as, members of the front office. And so I agree. I think it needs to be someone established, someone who already has relationships with other front offices. I think will be a big part of starting this process of, getting back to the playoffs at least 1 year. Maybe it doesn't have to be 25, but at least 1 year would be great.
Some good points here, and I can't say that you're wrong, because we're not in the situation where we're winning cup after cup or 3 out of 5 where we can afford a little bit of wiggle room to bring somebody up to get them acclimated to the NHL level of administration. So yeah, we need change. We need it right this second. We needed it like 5 years ago. We needed, something. We needed that spark. Eric, real quick, and then we'll move on to the NFL. If we weren't dealing with the situation that we are with Dylan Larkin wanting to leave the Red Wings, would we be having this conversation? Would Yzerman have stepped down?
No, he would not have.
If you're asking me, we were froze for a minute, so I don't know what the question was.
The question is, if we weren't dealing with the controversies around Dylan Larkin and his wanting to be traded from the Red Wings, would Steve Yzerman still maintain his role as GM?
I don't think so. Because I think if Illich and him had that conversation and Illich is like, we're not where we want to be, I think he would have had to make a change, and that's what he did. No, wrong. I didn't want that to happen, but, you got to make a change. It's been 7 years. You got Tampa there and won it in 3. You should at least got us there within 6. Like, you should at least gave yourself 3 more years. We should at least been in the playoffs by year 6.
All right. That's fair. That's fair. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the National Football League. And I know this is one of the reasons why we have Matt on this show, because he does some great content with Don't Know Grit covering the Detroit Lions. We are very rapidly approaching the NFL season. I mean, it seems like with every passing week is like, oh, there's only this amount of days left or this amount of days left. Like, the countdown is on.
8
Lions,
weeks.
huh?
8 weeks until the NFL season.
Crazy to think about, right? Because it seems like in some aspects we just watched the Super Bowl, and now we're coming up to 8 weeks before the start of the season. I know this is the segment of the show, Tim, that you look forward to, so I'm going to kind of let you steer the ship here as you, Matt, and Eric are going to be breaking down the latest with the NFL.
Yes, because Jason, I just don't feel like you're bringing the excitement of what the NFL season means to all of us. Like, I am on the
He's having
football to return. In fact, we're halfway through this season. A quarterback that just dropped on Netflix, and we are not. Are we here? Are we not here? Like, I don't know. Jason, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, now I'm back.
They did another thing of quarterbacks on Netflix?
Yes, another season just dropped, and it just gives me just that little bit just to get through this shit. Scott just brought up under 2 weeks until training camp gets started, but football season is right around the corner. So let's get fucking amped up, Jason. You need to bring some excitement with this when we're talking about football.
Yeah.
Like, put some respect on the game of football. That's all I'm saying. But the biggest news this week that I really want to get Matt's input on is Jahmyr Gibbs talking about holding out for an extension, sitting at a training camp. How do you feel about that?
So the question is, did he? I mean, as much as I looked into this, it seems like one guy said one thing one time and it kind of took off from there. Now, that being said, I think that there's a very real possibility that Jahmyr Gibbs isn't a full participant in all of training camp. And I don't think it's, for a contract holdout. I think it's because he doesn't need to be. And behind him, I like Pacheco as much as anybody, but he's not Gibbs. So if we can, save those knees, save those legs, keep him from taking any unnecessary hits, excellent. He'll get his time in the rotation. But if he's mostly just doing walkthroughs, I'm not upset at that at all.
No, I'm 100% right there with you. And like, I've only been hearing like little rumblings of him sitting out, and being a holdout for an extension. I haven't heard anything official, but that's the rumor right now. And I wouldn't be surprised, but in the same aspect, like, I don't think it's a bad thing. And I talked about this last night on Catching Up to Cody, even if he did, because it would force the Lions to try to get that extension signed before this market's reset anyways, with like a Bijan, you know what I mean? So if you could reset the market with Gibbs, you're going to get him at a cheaper cost. And that's the part that, like, go ahead and do it, because it's going to force them to sign you a little bit early before that market's reset. So in the same aspect, Eric, I want to know your opinion on it. Like, if he sat out, is that the worst thing in the world?
Not really. No, like, I don't want to, don't get me wrong. I love Gibbs. I want him here, but like, you got him for this year, you got him for next year. And then after that, you could franchise tag him. If just don't get me wrong. Running backs are a dime a dozen nowadays. Like, their career is it's over so quick unless you don't get hurt. And that's just one of the positions that gets beat up the most. You're taking a lot of damage. So it's like, I want him here, but I don't know. I don't think rush to sign him. In my opinion, I'd rather see, if you're going to get rid of one of them, get rid of Laporta. But I guess see what happens. If he's going to hold out, then he feels like he's worth more than what he is, than what he's getting paid. But what's the market? What's the top deal? What would you make? 22 million? Is that how much you want to pay for a running back in the NFL? When, first game, I don't want to say he could tear his ACL or his Achilles, because that's been like the main injuries happening nowadays. And then what? You just got Pacheco in the backfield and a rookie running back. It's a slippery slope. You know what I mean? And that's the name of the game. So we'll see what happens. I've heard rumors too, but I don't know. I don't think I agree with Matt. He doesn't need to be at training camp, and he can go through walkthroughs and all. He knows what he's doing. He knows his assignments. He knows the playbook. But if he feels like he's worth more and it's going to cause controversy on the team, then that's something him and Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes got to have a conversation about then.
I mean, I could see that aspect to it too. I'm looking at more of the money aspect. Either way, he's going to get, I think the market's set right now, Matt, like what about 22 million? Just like he said.
I think the highest annual right now is Saquon at 20.6.
20.6. So like he could be around the 22 million mark, but if Bijan resets that market at 22, then we're going to have to pay Gibbs, 24, 25. So if you want to save money, I'd extend them now, to be honest. Now, do you think that's a good thing, Matt? Or do you think paying him that much is going to cause the Lions to end up losing a Laporta or losing a Branch to stay within that salary cap?
I don't think those two things necessarily are mutually exclusive. I think that, yes, if you sign him to, $22, $23 million, it could put you in a bind with some of your other players. That may not be the worst thing. It depends on how you want to build. I am of the opinion that they should, in fact, pay Gibbs, because not only will it lock him in for a little while, but it lets you have that wiggle room with that 5th-year option, which right now is fully guaranteed, and the franchise tag would be fully guaranteed also. So you take 2 massive hits year after year instead of being able to kind of spread that out, your option bonuses, converting things to signing bonuses. I think that they have more wiggle room to keep guys if they do in fact sign him to that 4-year extension.
I mean, I'm about that process right now, that I think they should just get it done now. One, because I think honestly, waiting as long as they did with Hutch, even though I thought Hutch took a pretty decent team friendly deal, it could have turned out a lot worse because they let that market reset a couple times in the process of waiting to re-sign him. And we always knew they were going to, extend him, but I think the injury kind of held him off from possibly doing that, because they were worried about what he was going to be coming back off the injury. And obviously we saw that he came back 100% fully healthy and just came back to ball last year. You know what I mean? And he proved that he was worth the money. But if they would have did it, that previous year, they could have saved even more money by doing it. And when you're looking at some of these players that we have, there's a lot of stars on this team. I mean, we all know that. This team is full of absolute just beasts and stars. And, they've done really well with drafting some of these guys. They've had their misses, and people complain and they bring up the misses that they've had, but overall they've done really, really well. If you want to talk about signing somebody early and saving money, look what they did with Amon-Ra. You know what I mean? Like, they got Amon-Ra on an absolute deal right now because they did sign him early, and he's making way less than some of these top, wide receivers in the league currently. And I think he's right up on the same level as a lot of these guys. He's not a Justin Jefferson, but he's not far off from that. You know what I mean? But the gap in the amount of money that they're making is pretty extensive, so they did really well in that aspect. So I think that they should just get it done, sign them now. And like you said, it's going to help them in the long run if they just do it. Bringing up that you brought up Pacheco for a minute. Now, let's say he is a holdout and Gibbs, is that going to give Pacheco a more of a role on this team, because he'll be the one going through training camp? And we know how Dan likes guys who work. You know what I mean? Like, Dan Campbell's all about grinding. Could this possibly end up for being a larger role for Isaiah Pacheco this year? If this does turn, no, you don't think so?
No, and nothing against Isaiah Pacheco. Like I said, I think that I have a higher opinion of him than a lot of Lions fans do. I think that he's still got a lot in the tank. We've seen a couple of seasons derailed by injury, and I don't think he was in a scheme that utilized his specific skill set very well in Kansas City. So he's had a couple of things working against him, but I think barring Jahmyr Gibbs just not being at the facility until the night before week 1, I think he's still your RB1. It's a pretty large margin by how much. He's just so good at what he does that the offense is really built around him, around his skill set. And you can't do that with Pacheco.
See, and like I'm right there with you. I'm pretty high on Pacheco, obviously. Like if you watch the show, you know that I'm super high on Pacheco, and I think he's going to do fabulous in his role this year because this is more of a scheme that if he was in Kansas City, I think he would have really shined even more than what he did. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
He's going to have some opportunities this year that he's never had before, and I think it's going to really look like or make him look really really good, which could offer him a chance to possibly after this 1 year to go get a big contract somewhere else. I don't see the Lions ever signing him to a huge contract. They got him on one hell of a deal, but this could be his payday going somewhere else, moving on into the future because we're going to be able to see the Isaiah Pacheco that he is. I mean, he's a beast. People are complaining he only averages what 3.8 yards per carry or some shit with the Chiefs, but the Chiefs aren't built for running. You know what I mean? Like we all know that. You got Patrick Mahomes, you don't have to worry about the run. So
And
like
yeah, I mean that blocking scheme that he was running behind is built for Patrick Mahomes, right? That's
yes.
kind of what I was just saying with the offense is built around what Gibbs can do. In
Yes.
Kansas City, you had an offensive line that was built around the concept of Mahomes is going to roll out. You
Yep.
need your line to move with him.
Yep.
And that's not Pacheco's skill set. I'm not saying that he can't do it, but I think 80% of his carries last year came behind a zone blocking scheme where you're moving the line and he's waiting for it to develop and then trying to shift through the hole. He's a plant his foot in the ground kind of guy. And so I agree with you. I think that what's going to be in front of him in Detroit is a better situation than he had in Kansas City.
Yeah, and I think I think a lot of people who are upset about losing, and I was upset too about losing David Montgomery. I think after they see him
Same.
after a couple weeks, they're gonna feel pretty decent about having Pacheco here because he's an angry runner. You know what I mean? The
He
guy
very
just
much is.
yeah. So I think he's gonna fit that role. Is he gonna be as good as Montgomery? Maybe not. But do we need him to be as good as Montgomery? Probably not because Gibbs, like you said, he's the RB1. He's going to be taking most of the shine. We just need him to come down there, and short yardage situations and just pound through the line. And that's what Pacheco does, and he does it well, and he did it pretty decently well behind a line that wasn't built for the run. So I can't wait to see what he does behind a line that's actually built for the run. I mean, this team is built around the run. I mean, we have been for years. So I'm excited to see what he says. And I think you're going to see that average go up for maybe 3.8 yards. And that might not be the exact number. You know what I mean? I'm pulling that, but I think it was
3.9 last season.
yeah,
You're pretty darn
3.9.
close.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be surprised to see that go up into the high fours. You know what I mean? Pretty easily behind this line. So it's exciting to see that where to go. Eric, do you have any input on any of that? Gibbs, Pacheco? I know you're not. I don't even want to bring up Pacheco to you because you always just shit all over him because he played for
No,
Kansas City.
He's a good runner and all that. I was sitting here thinking, listen, you guys, I don't know. The Montgomery trade still doesn't make sense to me because, he loved being here. There was such a good relationship. He was great in the locker room. He was teaching Gibbs. He was a veteran player. He was that power back we needed. We should have never got rid of him. Then we wouldn't have to be talking about Pacheco. It would be Sonic and Knuckles still. And that's how I feel like it should be because that's what we had. It's just after Ben Johnson left, Montgomery did not get used the way he should have. And I think that's on the coaching staff, honestly. But am I happy Pacheco's here? Yes, I think I think with the running scheme that we do and all that, he's definitely going to shine a little bit more. I could see him averaging 5 yards carry, honestly.
I could, 5 yards.
But it also depends on getting that offensive line to mesh. Like last year, it was a little struggle in the beginning. Now we have a new, left tackle, right tackle and all that. So it's gonna take a couple weeks for them to get in their groove and mesh, unless they do very, very well in training camp. So, but I think Pacheco will do better here.
I'm right there with you. And speaking of the offensive line, Matt, heading into training camp coming up, how high are we feeling about this offensive line? Like I know myself personally, I think it's going to be better than last year by a mile. You know what I mean? Like I'm pretty excited about it. How are you feeling about the offensive line currently?
I'm definitely feeling pretty good now. I felt okay last year, though the Ragnow thing was definitely a wrench in the plans. But I like that the players on the offensive front clearly represent a mindset that Detroit's going in with. And I don't think we had that last year, specifically with Graham at center, because Graham was never the physically dominant type of lineman. He was a technician. And so putting that in the middle kind of created a weak point. And I think we saw that with Mahogany, is that he had Graham next to him, who wasn't a mauler, where Mahogany is, Decker to his left, who was solid but aging, and again, more of a technician. And you saw Mahogany take a step back. Whereas this season, you've got Cade Mays in the middle, and that guy will dominate in a phone booth. I mean, he'll run anybody over. He's built like a brick. And then you've got Tate, who's coming into his own. I think he was phenomenal last year for a rookie. Sewell over on the left, there's not a better run blocking tackle in the league. I don't care what anyone says. I think that they built this line once again with a goal in mind, and that was to beat you up front. They're going to put their five against your five. Their five are going to win. And I think building around that mindset already puts us in a better place than we were last year.
Yeah, speaking of that, when you bring up the fact that Penei Sewell moving to left tackle, you know, a lot of people were talking down about this move because he was the best right tackle in football. But what they don't realize is he was never anything but a left tackle until he came to Detroit. Like his whole life, he was a left tackle. So, what are your feelings? Do you think, like me personally, I think he's going to become instantly the best left tackle in football. And I feel really comfortable about him being over there and protecting Goff because that is the blind side. And that's where we would get beat a lot of the time. And Goff would take those sacks. I feel a lot more comfortable with Penei over there. What's your feelings about Penei being at left tackle now?
I don't know if he'll instantly be the best left tackle in the league, but I believe he will still remain one of the best tackles in the league, even at left tackle. And what I firmly believe is that we will still be better at left tackle than we would have been if Decker stayed another year. And again, nothing against Decker. I loved watching him play for, a decade, but Penei Sewell is better. It's just like the, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery thing where Demo wasn't getting the snaps, but Jahmyr is better. And so I think that moving him over to left tackle shores up that blind side where you would much rather have a guy learn and get up to NFL speed at right tackle, Blake Miller.
Yes. Yeah.
Jared Goff's
Especially-
blind side is going to be very well protected with Penei over on the left.
Yeah. And a lot of people say that Jared Goff can't move and he's not that athletic. And I've been one of those guys, like he doesn't really have much of an athletic bone in his body, but if he can see it coming, he does have the ability to avoid it. You know what I mean? He does have he's got a couple moves in the tank there. You know what I mean? He's not very fast doing it, but he has a better chance of avoiding it coming off the right than he does the left. So
100%.
I'm excited about that. And I think it's going to be a completely different offense based on that factor this year, especially, if Laporta comes back fully healthy. And because he's one hell of a tight end, and I'm excited to see what he can do there. And I know we picked up Conklin, who is, he's a little bit more of a blocking tight end, which we need, you know what I mean? Because right now, with the loss of Montgomery, that's one spot, because let's be honest, Gibbs is a great running back, but he can't block worth a shit. Let's be completely honest. Pacheco can a little bit, but you're missing that big part of that offense with Montgomery, because Montgomery was one hell of a pass blocker too at the same time. So you're going to need a tight end who can step into those roles. And Laporta hasn't really been the best pass block. I mean, in my opinion, what's your opinion on Laporta when it comes to pass blocking and the whole situation with not really having the level of a pass blocker running back as what Montgomery is?
I think you're 100% correct. I don't think that Gibbs or Pacheco is anywhere near the blocker that Montgomery was. And when it comes to tight end, of course, Brock Wright is generally considered the blocking tight end, but I think that Sam Laporta, probably the part of his game that's improved the most since coming into the league, is his blocking. Because when he came in, he didn't really have a lot, and he's gotten better and better. But I think where Detroit will start to offset that And one of the things I think Petzing will be able to do very well is using their wide receivers to aid in that blocking. One of the things that always stands out when you watch Detroit's film is not just Amon-Ra, but Waymo to Slaw, like them cracking down and laying that block. They can all do it and are all willing to do it on any given snap. So I think that, when you watch Petzing and what he did in Arizona, there was a lot of kind of cool motions and ways to pull and the ways that he would intertwine his tight ends with his linemen when they were trying to do cut blocks or crack blocks. And I think that Detroit has the wide receivers that can do that. So I expect that to be where they kind of pick up on some of that blocking, where they can use a little bit of misdirection and then catch a defender on his blind side with one of those wide receivers.
That's a hell of a point. And while we're still on the offense, real quick, because you're talking about Petzing and what he did in Arizona, and I know a lot of people have had a pretty down feeling on him since he came here because obviously, Arizona wasn't the best team. But you look what he did last year with Jacoby Brissett, and I mean, I did stats for almost every game last year, and some of the numbers this guy was putting up last year were insane. They didn't have the defense to really help carry them into wins last year, but Arizona all around, besides winning, was a pretty damn good football team. They just didn't have enough to close out games, you know what I mean? But what he did with that offense last year was pretty impressive to me personally, because they were putting up crazy yards. Like, are you pretty high on this pick? I mean, I know it's not the exciting pick that we all wanted to see, but are you pretty high on Petzing at this point in time?
I am. And honestly, when the, coaching carousel was occurring, my biggest hope was that they would get Kafka, and they did, just not in the way that I thought they would. But I mean, like you said, what he was doing last year with Arizona is made even more impressive by the fact that he basically had, 4 guys on the offensive line that didn't even have a role in the team week 1. I mean, that offensive line got beat up last year, and he was still putting it together. And I think, not everybody wants to get granular, like you were saying, and watch all the stats or watch the way he moves pieces around with his offensive line and the way that, the guards are pulling or their tackles are pulling, but going through the A gap to block, which is something you don't see very often. But that kind of thing is what made Ben Johnson work so well, is that he was just a little outside the box with the way he was using his pieces. And I think that Petzing represents a little bit of that, but he also represents a lot of what made Detroit so successful 2 years ago. And a big part of the reason I think they weren't as successful last year, because Morton came in with a whole different system. It was a complete change on, starting with the line, how the blocking scheme was developed, how the wide receivers were. Everything was a little bit different, and the players had to try to adapt to that. I think with Petzing, we're going to see a little bit more of getting back to what made Detroit so successful, with a lot of little sprinkles that make them different from anything else that's out there right now.
I'm right there with you. And, last year with the whole Morton fiasco, and the only, solid point to come out of that whole thing was the fact that Dan Campbell took over play calling and he put the glasses on, and then all of our wives started melting, you know what I mean? Because you got the old man with the readers on there. And for some reason, wives like that shit. So there's a lot of husbands out there who got their wives into watching football last year because Dan Campbell decided. I mean, it was already bad enough that, my wife walks around the house with a "I'm here for the coach" shirt on with the lion on the back and, Dan Campbell, number 89 on the back. We all know our wives melt over that, man. And it's just crazy. But yeah, so, moving on. I mean, unless Eric has anything to add for the offense there, because I know he was melting over Dan Campbell last year. His underwear were always fitting a little bit tighter every time that the camera panned to him. But Eric, any input on the offense before we move off the offense?
Fuck you, by the way. No, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens this year. I think everyone's counting the Lions to be better this year than they were last year, because everyone's saying they fell off a little bit. I think the offense is going to pick up where it left off a couple of years ago. I think it really can. I think they have all the tools and all the ability to do it. I think Petzing is going to do very well here. Like, the more and more I hear about it and think about it, he's a very run-heavy kind of guy. He does a lot of motions. Like, looking at Arizona, they just didn't have the pieces for him, and I think we do. And, hearing about J-Mo putting in more time, he's really focusing on wanting to catch the ball this year and all that. So I was like, okay, well, if he's putting in that time, Amon-Ra does, and Tesla's probably going to do the same thing. I think this offense can really take off this year.
I'm right there with you. And the fact that, you know, I think it was a top 5 offense or maybe top 6 offense last year. They were right there between 5 and 6. I can't remember the exact number, but, you know, even having a little bit of a fall off with that, I think a lot of it play calling, they still did very, very well last year. And I think, and especially with the line issues, I think they did really well. But the biggest problem that I'm worried about, unless, hold on real quick, let me stop this because I haven't heard Jason talking about 15 minutes. Jason,
It's been really nice. Why you gotta do that? Why you gotta ruin it?
because he's just sitting there all quiet. You know, his head's not as shiny today, so I can't tell if he's getting irritated or not. Just sitting there all quiet. Usually when it starts shining, you know, he has something to say.
He was just trying to give me the shine. I appreciate that, Jason.
yeah.
I really do.
Jason, do you have anything to
Like you.
fill in on Detroit's offense this year with the Petzing pickup and anything before we move on to defense?
I have no opinion.
All right, rock on. Let's go to the elephant in the room, the part that we're all somewhat worried about, not fully worried about. You know what I mean? I think personally, I think the defensive line this year is pretty well stacked. I'm pretty excited about that aspect of it. Linebackers, I think pretty good, but you know, we're looking at a corner situation in Detroit right now, and that's where I think we were hurt the most last year, especially with the deep ball. And so, I mean, Lions defense, the secondary, we're all a little worried about it. What's your feelings on the secondary currently?
I'm also a little worried about it. And of course, I think it starts with that safety room and the fact that we don't know. Like, we don't know if Kirby's going to be there. We won't know until training camp at the earliest. We don't know how that will play out. So that's worrying. Then we also don't know at CB2. Now, I don't know if that's better than when we did know, right? Because when we knew it was going to be Terrion, no one was excited. But now that we know that it won't be, everyone's terrified. And I think, you know, Rock is the easy answer. He's actually never performed as poorly as Terrion has in his entire career. So we've got a guy that I think can step in, but it's not just a this year problem. I think if I remember correctly, I'm going off the top of my head, so forgive me if I miss one, but after this season, it's just DJ Reed, Ennis Rakestraw, and Keith Abney under contract. That's it from those CBs. So somebody's going to have to step up to earn another contract, or Detroit's really going to have to start looking elsewhere.
Do not draft
preferably before the end of the season.
Yeah. So speaking of the names that we have on the roster right now, who do you think really needs to step up, or who do you think is going to be the standout this year in that position, if there is a standout, because that's the spot that I'm worried about the most?
So, I mean, the easy answer is Ennis, right? Like, you want to see something from him.
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, just looking at face value, if you're going to pick 1, 2, and 3, I think in line with most people with thinking it'll be Reed, Yassine, and McCreary. But behind them, I think that Rakestraw and Abney are the two guys that you have to look to step up. And I know Abney's a rookie and a 5th-round pick, but I don't think he should have been. And I've said that since the day they got him. I think he is much better than that. But you want one of them to step up, because after this season, one of them may very well be the future at CB2, maybe CB3. So I think that having those guys step up is going to be big, not only for the future, but also the 3 that I just named are the only 3 that anyone can really put any stock in as being the starter, right? And we saw last year what happened when Reed went down. We had a Meek. We don't have him anymore.
Yeah.
Now you have McCreary, who can slot in on the outside, but then you're down to McCreary and Rock, and you have just a question mark at CB3. So Reed is going to have to step up, I think, and be a true number 1. I think that's pivotal to the whole thing. But one of those guys, CB4, CB5, has to take a step. They have to be able to be reliable once they get on the field.
Well, I also think you need one of those guys who can slot into that safety position too when you need it, because we don't know how that room's going to look either, you know, especially with Kirby. So you need somebody who can fall back there, and especially with Branch being out too, and who knows when he's going to come back or what his, you know, timeline is, because I keep hearing maybe he'll be ready, maybe October, you know what I mean? So who knows exactly when Branch, and I'm excited to see Branch come back, because he's always done really, really well. He got, I thought, even better last year than he was the year before. So his growth has been very good. So that's a name that I want to see them resign or resign, not resign, but resign. Another aspect of the room is the linebackers. We lost Anzalone. He's moved on. Is that a big loss? Should we be worried? Or do you think we're fine with Jack Campbell?
Anzalone is a big loss if they stick with the 4-3 base as such a big part of their defense, because there is not anybody on this Lions team who can do what Anzalone did as a will linebacker in a 4-3 scheme. Now, if they switch to primarily a 4-2, or some version thereof, 5-2 with that guy on the end coming back and forth between being a Sam and a defensive end, I think that there are a few guys who can fill the will role in a 4-2 defense, because it's a very different requirement, right? I think that Malcolm can do it just fine. I think that Derek Barnes can do it just fine. But I think that you kind of gave a little bit of good insight there with the Jack Campbell thing, because I think that while he is a phenomenal linebacker, his coverage is going to have to get better this year, especially given what we were just talking about with the secondary. There are going to be plays where he has to be relied on to be able to cover a running back or a tight end. It's going to come up, and Campbell's going to have to take that next step. I think that's the next logical progression in him really cementing himself as one of the elite linebackers, is taking that coverage to the next level.
So yeah, and now we've covered that aspect. Eric, do you have any input on this? Because I know you were a former defensive coach here for high school football. I mean, not the kind that we kick unless you're kicking a field goal. But like, what's your thoughts on that aspect of the defense before we move to the last part, which is the defensive line, which I'm pretty high on currently.
Well, like Matt was saying, if you go to like the 4-2, kind of a 5 and all that, that's kind of hard with it because we don't have a lot of depth in the CB room. We don't know what's going on with our safeties. So like, I think they're gonna probably have to stick to that 4-3 because they have more linebacker depth than they do cornerback depth. You got Rodriguez, that's a solid linebacker. I don't know if he can step into that Anzalone spot, but he can definitely play sideline to sideline. You got Derek Barnes that, losing Anzalone was a big loss because he was that sideline to sideline linebacker. And the last one we had was Stephen Tulloch back in the day. There's not a lot of linebackers that can play sideline to sideline as fast as those guys did. So I think that was a big loss in the interior of our defense. Pardon me. But the cornerback, you got to go see who's still in free agents. You got to see who's maybe on the chopping block somewhere on a team that you could get for maybe a second round pick, maybe a third round pick, give away a draft pick for at least a decent second corner, because DJ Reed's probably going to be the number one corner we need, or hopefully he can turn into. But the defensive line just needs to get pressure on the quarterback to make one of those bad throws. And yeah, Jack Campbell's coverage definitely does have to get better this year if he's going to be that true number one linebacker, and he's tall enough to do it.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's just, there's not as many question marks and all that, but there are still some things you can do in mid-season to make this defense better. And I think they need to at least go get a true second corner.
I could see that, and that's something that will probably, if they're in position to be buyers, before the trade deadline, to make a move like that. But now to what I think they did a really good job of in the offseason in the draft was really shoring up this defensive line. And I'm pretty excited about the direction that this is going. How are you feeling about the defensive line this year, Matt?
I feel pretty good, to an extent. The interior with Tyleek and Aleem, I think, is fantastic. Both of those guys capable of playing, from nose to 3 without any issues at all. I think that Aleem can play all the way out, probably to the 4-eye. And I think that is kind of the thing that impresses me most about this defensive line, is that versatility that you kind of have in one package in Aleem. Anyone who can go from nose to 4-eye, which is, basically the big end, that's super impressive. And I think the Lions have 3 guys that can do it to varying degrees of success. I think that Aleem can do it. I think that Levi can do it if he stays healthy. And we saw Tyler Lacey do it last year. Now, Lacey's bigger and slower, But the fact that you can have those guys and kind of have them be interchangeable on the defensive front, I think gives this defensive line a matchup advantage if they've got the right pieces behind them calling out coverages so that they can get into the right alignments. You can come in with, Aleem over the nose, Tyleek in the 3, and then Lacey in the 3, and split that out into almost a wide 9 with those same 3 guys to throw the offense off. So I think that is the thing that I like most about the way this front setup is for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting year. I know Nick had brought up a minute ago in the chats. I'm trying to say, he said he wouldn't be surprised if they don't try a 3-4 look in the preseason of held secondary. He said a 3-4 look with Hutch in a TJ Watt edge roll. That would be kind of different to see. It'd be kind of fun to.
Wouldn't be horrible because he's not bad at coverage in the flats. He's not bad at coverage in where like he could cover and all that. So it's not a horrible idea, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Maybe not.
He's a very athletic guy. He's a very good DN that can get out in space and chase the ball carrier down. So yeah, it's not his bread and butter though.
Yeah, good point. No, but like you brought up at Lee McNeil, I'd like to see them keep him in the center this year and let him play his actual role, because last year they kept pushing him out towards the edge and it just wasn't working for him. And
you got that edge from Michigan last year in the draft, so you don't really need to push him out. And
no,
you need McNeil and I can't think of our first round.
Williams.
Yep, those two to let them eat in the middle.
Yeah, and that's where Edling like really thrives. And last year he was coming off, that injury, and it took him a little while to get going. So I'm excited to see now almost a full year out healthy. Exactly, we'll see him return back to form, and I think this defense on the front end of it is going to be very dangerous. Let's just hope that the secondary can keep things, in order the best that they can, because the biggest part that I'm worried about is that deep ball that we kept getting beat on last year. And, teams take notice to that shit, and they're going to be playing into that. And if they can't, guard against that, as soon as Kirby went down and was hurt, they just started throwing deep, because they wouldn't do it with Kirby on the field. I mean, the guy's an absolute ball hawk. So if there's a God, please let Kirby be healthy, because we're not going to get beat there. They won't even think about throwing it deep against Kirby, because that guy is an animal.
They're gonna test him though, because he's been hurt so long. Don't test him.
Try it. That's all I'm saying. If he comes back, try it, because that guy's amazing. So, speaking of all that, I'm still pretty high on the Lions this year, Matt. I'm sure you are too. I'm sure Eric is. I'm sure Jason is. I mean, he's wearing the shirt, but he's bored. How are we feeling about this team? Is this the best team in the NFC North this year?
Yes.
Yes, that's what I want to hear.
I mean, you look at last year and 4th place, right? It sounds terrible, but then you look at the records and you were like, oh, but everyone was right there.
Yeah.
And we all thought the Lions were terrible last year. I mean, we were picking them apart week after week. Still everybody else in the division. I think that, the Bears, who won it all, are going to show some regression on defense. You can't rely on that many turnovers every year. I mean, you just got some, lucky bounces there, in my opinion, and they lost a couple of guys in that secondary. The Packers, I mean, their defense is not impressive either. Neither is their offensive line. And then the Vikings, also in the NFC North.
They're going to be the sleeper, I feel like. They're going to be the sleeper, the one you got to really worry about. I think they're going to be overlooked, and I think they're going to be one of the harder teams to beat.
I think that, they're, for their defense,
always
best defensive coordinator in the league. But they lost some key pieces on that defense. Their wide receiver core, fantastic. Probably the best in the NFC North if you're looking at 1 through 3, right, as far as what they've done. But their offensive line is not great. And their quarterback is either J.J. McCarthy or Kyler Murray.
I read something not that long ago that more than likely the starter is going to be Kyler Murray. And this could be his, and it could be his, breakout, like, hey, okay, Arizona let me go show Minnesota what I got. And I think he'll do okay there. I really do. I think him and Jettas are going to get a good chemistry going, even though I don't want it to happen, but I think I could see it happening.
It's possible, but I'm not that high on Kyler Murray. I just haven't been. I don't like his game in general. And he has, a little bit of that Caleb Williams in him, right? That Russell Wilson, that scramble around and launch the ball. And if you give him time, then he's going to be able to find Jefferson down the field because he's going to get open.
Or Addison.
Yeah. They're going to get open if they give him time. But I mean, I just don't think they definitely don't have that, Bears offensive line in front of him, even the Lions offensive line. So you're going to have a guy who has to scramble. And I don't think Kyler Murray performs his best when he has to scramble. I think he performs his best when he can scramble. And so I think that will be the thing that is the Vikings' undoing. I will never underestimate a Brian Flores defense, ever. But that offense, they're going to have to show it to me.
They're one of those sneaky teams where I always said that you could throw any quarterback in that situation and they always shine a little bit. You know what I mean? It's a very quarterback friendly
Look
program.
at Sam Darnold when he was there. Dude, 14
Look
wins.
at Sam Darnold after he left.
Yeah, they ended up winning the Super Bowl. But to me, Kyler Murray, if he has any offensive lineman that's over 6 foot tall, he can't see over him because he's only about 5'2". But before we move on to golf real quick, give me your record prediction for the Lions this year, Matt. We'll call it right now. What are they doing?
12-5.
12-5. I had them at 13-4, so we're right around the same neighborhood. Jason, do you have anything to add on to the Lions before we move on to Tim's 2 minutes of golf, the most exciting part of this show every week?
12-5. I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Smart man. I like it.
Eric said 7-37.
No, what'd you say?
What do you think the Lions record prediction?
Yeah, no, what was yours?
I said 13-4.
You can go 14-3.
Okay, rock on. He's going for big dogs.
I think there's only going to be a handful of games that they're going to lose close, and one of them's going to be against the Bills.
Yeah, I could see them losing against the Bills because that's one in that new stadium over there. They're going to be hot and excited. Jason, you know what time it is, brother? Get me excited outside.
It's that time of the show. It'll be sweet and short. Here's Tim Sheridan with the 2 minute golf score.
This is Tim's 2 minutes of golf talk on the Sports Reel podcast, brought to you by the PFC Entertainment Network. This past weekend, we had the Open, also known as the British Open. It is the last major of the year, and this one came down to the wire with Ryan Fox with an absolute dominant performance at the end, where he ended up with like 4 birdies in the last 5 holes to come out and win this thing at 10 under. This is his first major win. My biggest thing is I was sitting there going, I really want the Hammer to win one. And he was leading this thing up until the last hole. Being that said, Cam the Hammer Young finished in second here at 9 under. We had Sam Burns, who was leading this thing at one point, fall to third at 8 under. We had a 2-way tie at 4th place with Scotty Scheffler, who just cannot find his way to actually close out and win since the beginning of the season. And he did not win a single major this year. He's just missing something. I'm not quite sure what it is. Short putts. His driver accuracy is kind of off. But he finished at 7 under, tied with Fleetwood, who was my pick to win this thing. And I thought he had a chance. I mean, he was only 3 off the lead. And then we had Siwoo Kim in 6th, along with Jarvis, Herbert, and Henley. And then a 4-way tie for 9th with Gerard, Scott, Auberg, and Nygaard Peterson. Now, that's a weird name, fucking like Nygaard Peterson. That's like one of your parents is a fucking Viking and the other one's just an average, American. I'm not sure what the mix there is, but yeah, that was the last major of the year. It came down to the wire. I was glued to the TV, really hoping the Hammer would pull one out because I really think he's real close to winning his first major. This has been a phenomenal year for him in golf. I know he's the 3rd ranked golfer in the world, so he's moved way up in those standings, and I'm all about Cam the Hammer Young making a move into the future for golf. This coming up next weekend, we have the 3M Open. We're probably going to see some of these guys taking a little bit of time off, so it's not going to be as big of an event, but it'll still be exciting to see who keeps leading, because right now they're trying to build FedEx Cup points to make it to the FedEx Championship, because that'll be the last really big event of the year. So that was Tim's 2 minutes golf report on the Sports Reel podcast, brought to you by the PFC Entertainment Network. Cheers. Nobody want to clap for me? Nobody want. I'll clap for myself. There we go. Thank you, Matt.
Good.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt. Programming notes. Next week, July 28th at 6 p.m. Eastern. We got the return of Nathan Mulugeta, and we also have Cody from Catching Up with Cody with us in studio. So we're really looking forward to that show coming up next week. So catch us live 6 p.m. Eastern at the PFC Entertainment Network on YouTube, Facebook, and Riverside.com. And then last programming note, we are still in the middle of the Kirby Joseph autographed Detroit Lions mini helmet giveaway on TikTok. We have about 273 followers left before we give that thing away live on a podcast. We just really need TikTok to stop playing bullshit games and let our videos get pushed out. Everybody's bitching about it right now. Stop playing games. We're not going to pay you to push our videos out. One, because you don't even push it out to the right damn people anyways. It's all bots and everything else. So we're not going to do that. So if you are seeing this or any type of thing, just follow us. Like the post that I put out there. And that helmet there in the middle, it's covered up by a name. It's covered up by Eric Mendal. He's always fucking everything up. There we go. He's moving it forward. Yeah, that could be yours. 100%. Jason, I know you got some programming notes because you got a couple big shows coming up this week.
Yeah, we have. We're going to be working on the next episode of Ball Game, where Vinny and I look at everything within the world of baseball. I was going to make a smart ass comment, but I'll stop. And then next Friday, we have a big show over on ONTV as a part of the Fatal 4-Way, our annual SummerSlam preview spectacular. And this is shaping up to be one of the biggest SummerSlam events in WWE history. A lot going on. So we're looking forward to breaking that down next Friday night, 6 p.m. live on ONTV. I do want to make mention real quick of our online store. We talk about it every single week, but if you haven't done so already, check out pfcsportsreel.printify.me. And Tim, there's 2 new arrivals that literally just landed on the store within the last hour. May I present to you the new Tim Sheridan Did I Freeze t-shirt.
Thanks. That's a stab in the heart there, Jason.
Oh, but it gets better. But wait, there's more. There is the new Jason Clouse heel t-shirt that is now
for all those Sacramento fans.
I thought about putting it in Sacramento Kings colors, but I can't bring myself to do it. So you get black and white. Hey, don't give me an opening like that, and don't expect me not to exploit it.
You're too damn funny. By the way, I never even asked you. Did you resubmit that file for my hat to the bastards? Okay, so
I did. And the problem is and I just went and looked at it to find out what was happening. Because the logo is so detailed, it can't be embroidered. So we're going to have to figure out what we can do. Either put another logo on that hat or another hat altogether. So
So what am I supposed to do right now? Like, they haven't even sent me anything back. Like, am I just not getting hats? Well, I know one of the hats works. Just send me my one fucking hat. That's all I want from them. Like,
I'm gonna try to tweak the image a little bit and see if it will bypass, because I didn't realize it was embroidery. That's the issue. If it was the normal direct garment printing, process, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But
so is this just on one hat or both?
It's on both of them.
On both, because we've sold one of those hats before.
I know. I don't understand what the hell's going on. I do not know.
So, like, should I just cancel my order?
Well, we'll discuss it here in when we're all there.
Well, other than that, Matt, thank you again, brother, for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. Why don't you let all of our fans know exactly where they can find you online?
You can find me on Don't Know Grit across all social platforms. You can tune in daily for new, adequate Detroit Lions commentary and analysis. We're getting close to training camp, so it's about to get a lot more interesting.
100%. And like literally anybody, go follow this guy if you want really in-depth like Detroit Lions coverage. I mean, he gets deep as hell, and I get a lot of my shit from him because he goes real deep. And man, your edits have been getting phenomenal. Like it's been getting some pretty good content to watch. So go follow Don't Know Grit. You know, he is absolutely awesome. Jason, while you're here.
Certainly we do appreciate Matt joining the show. We appreciate everybody else who tuned in to watch us live here tonight, or if you're watching us on demand through the RSS feed on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Podcast. So with that, go out this week, be awesome to yourselves and to each other. We'll see you next week right here on the Sports Reel Podcast, live on the PFC Entertainment Network.
Let's go Tigers. And let's go sour cream being restocked at the shelves at Walmart because Eric is not eating it all yet.